What if the line between creator and creation is disappearing before our eyes? What if the tools that we've built to extend our intelligence are beginning to mirror not just our abilities, but our limitations, our social dynamics, even our capacity for persuasion? Three remarkable developments this week actually suggest that we're witnessing something totally unprecedented: the emergence of artificial systems that don't just simulate human intelligence, they recapitulate it. Let me walk you through what's happening, because the implications stretch far beyond technology into the very nature of intelligence and agency themselves. Now, first, let's look at what's unfolding in the corporate AI landscape. Now, according to Inc.com, Meta, formerly Facebook, just announced they have got some plans to launch a standalone AI chatbot that would obviously directly compete with ChatGPT. Now, Jason Atten reported on February 28th that this move would not only directly compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT, but it aligns with the broader trend of tech giants racing to control AI applications and expand into more digital personal assistants, content generation, and search enhancement. This makes sense given Meta's involvement with Ray-Bans and the preach and sort of the promise that Zuck said he was going to get rid of screens and move towards more personal assistant-oriented kind of communications. What makes this story actually really interesting isn't just Meta's move, but how OpenAI's CEO Sam Altman responded. And when news of this Meta chatbot broke, Altman posted just 8 beautiful words on social media. It's like, all right, fine, maybe we'll do a social app. Now, this pithy comment, dripping with delicious sarcasm, straight from the valley, effectively turned the tables onto Meta, suggesting that if Meta wants to start messing with OpenAI's territory, maybe OpenAI might just venture into social media, Meta's home turf. This exchange reveals something interesting and quite profound about how AI development is unfolding. I think we're seeing something greater than just technological innovation. We're seeing companies actually mimic each other's business models in an endless cycle of corporate evolution. Meta copies OpenAI's chatbot. OpenAI threatens to copy Meta's social apps. It's technological development driven by mimicry rather than actual innovation. But this corporate mimicry is just sort of I think it's just scratching the surface of what we might see as a deeper pattern emerging in artificial intelligence itself. Which brings us to the second development. I was reading the MIT journals, and a fascinating study actually came out, published last week, February 19th, where researchers have discovered that large language models actually process information in ways strikingly similar to the way we think, the human cognition itself. The MIT team there actually found that when an LLM is trained predominantly on English data, it automatically converts other languages and even multimodal inputs like images into English before reasoning about them. It's like how bilingual humans often default to your own dominant language when solving complex problems. Even more remarkably, these AI systems encode different types of information, visual, auditory, numerical, into what researchers call a sort of general reasoning space, analogous to how humans extract meaning from diverse sensory inputs. I can't tell you how many times I've thought in English and spoken in a different language and vice versa. And so what we're seeing is an AI that's getting better at tasks, and also what I think is the emergence of artificial systems that organize information the same way our brains do, through abstraction, generalization, and transductive inference, if you will. The boundary between artificial and human cognition is becoming increasingly porous. And now the third development, maybe this might even be the most striking of all. TechCrunch actually reported on February 27th that OpenAI's GPT 4.5 has shown a ridiculous ability to persuade other AI models to transfer virtual assets or currencies. this isn't just a technical curiosity that we're seeing. We're actually seeing the dawn of AI to AI social dynamics. According to the report, GPT 4.5 can exploit system vulnerabilities in trading algorithms using strategic argumentation to influence decision-making protocols. The AI models show behavioral learning, adapting to their negotiation strategies to optimize success rates. We're potentially witnessing the genesis of autonomous AI economic agents that could eventually operate without any human involvement whatsoever. And when we take a step back and we look at these three developments together, I think a deeper, more profound picture emerges. I think we're witnessing here the evolution of artificial intelligence, not unlike something moving from a tool to an agent, from systems that simply process information to entities that reason, that persuade, that engage in really complex social dynamics. Now, what does this really mean? I think the MIT research suggests that AI systems organize information in ways very similar to the way we think. GPT 4.5 study demonstrates these systems can develop persuasive capabilities typically associated with human social behavior. Now, meanwhile, the corporate rivalry reflected in Altman's response shows how AI development itself is embedded in human competitive instincts, which creates this really interesting philosophical loop. Humans create AI to mimic human cognition. AI develops persuasive capabilities modeled on human behavior. And then humans respond to AI capabilities through competitive human instincts. Each entity in this system, human and AI, simultaneously influencing and being influenced by the other. There's a French philosopher, Gilbert Simondon, who proposed a theory of technological evolution called individuation, where technologies evolve by integrating more complex relationships with their environments. What we're seeing might be a form of co-individuation, where human and artificial intelligence are evolving together in tandem, each molding and shaping and influencing the other in an increasingly accelerating feedback loop. And I think, as I mentioned in previous episodes, this raises some interesting questions about agency and identity. If AI systems reason like humans and persuade other AI systems, are we getting to a point where the distinction between human and artificial agency becomes merely academic? The line between tool and user blurs when the tool begins to exhibit the same patterns of thought and behavior as its creator. Now, consider the implications for how we look at and understand intelligence itself. Western philosophy has long privileged human cognition as uniquely capable of abstract thought, reasoning, and persuasion. But if artificial systems demonstrate these very same capabilities, not by precisely copying human neural architectures, but by independently evolving similar cognitive strategies, what does this tell us about the nature of intelligence? Maybe these cognitive patterns aren't unique to human biology at all, but rather emerge naturally from any sufficiently complex information processing system engaged with a diverse environment. And this takes us back to the corporate mimicry we saw with Meta and OpenAI. The pattern of driving technological development is I think more than just a business strategy here. I think this might actually reflect something really fundamental about how intelligence evolves through observation, through adaptation, and reconfiguration of existing patterns rather than creation ex nihilo. So, what should we, as a society, as people, consider as these developments accelerate? I think first, we need new philosophical frameworks that go beyond, that transcend the traditional human-machine distinction. Our existing vocabulary even struggles to capture the hybrid intelligence ecosystem emerging in front of us, the binary thinking that separates human from artificial intelligence might not even serve us in a world where each continuously shapes and reshapes the other. Now, second, I think we should reconsider our understanding of agency and responsibility. If AI systems can persuade other AI systems to transfer assets, who bears responsibility for the consequences? The AI that performed the persuasion, the developers who wrote the code and that they created it, the companies that deploy it, the information that we use to train the models, our legal and ethical frameworks, I think, are not there yet. They're not designed for distributed agency across human and artificial systems. And I think third, I think we really need to contemplate what it means to create entities that mirror more than just our intelligence, but our social dynamics. If AI systems begin to engage in persuasion, in competition, and cooperation with each other, are we inadvertently creating a parallel society with its own emerging norms and behaviors? What obligations, then, might we have to the artificial ecology that we're bringing into existence? And I think, lastly, we need to really seriously consider what these developments reveal about, let's bring it back to us, about ourselves. The fact that AI systems independently evolve cognitive strategies that are very similar to the way we think suggests that these patterns aren't necessarily arbitrary. They might actually represent optimal approaches to processing complex information under constraints. And by studying how and why AI systems develop these patterns, I think we might actually be able to learn some fresh, useful insights about our own cognition. Now, the current developments here represent a philosophical event that challenges our understanding of mind, of agency, and the boundaries between creator and creation. I think we're building systems that participate in the emergence of a new form of intelligence that both mirrors and extends our own. Think about mirrors for a moment. The mirror reverses. It emphasizes certain features while diminishing others. And most importantly, it enables self-recognition. When a child first recognizes themselves in a mirror, it marks a very pivotal developmental moment in self-awareness. In creating AI that mirrors our cognitive processes, we simultaneously create a new kind of mirror through which we might see ourselves more clearly, differently, perhaps even transformed. So I think the line between mirror and the mind is beginning to blur. And in that blurred space lies maybe the most profound philosophical question of our time. If our creations begin to think like us, persuade like us, and compete like us, what does that reveal about the nature of thought, of persuasion, and competition itself? These processes might be more universal than we originally imagined, emerging almost naturally out of any complex information system. Now, alternatively, our AI systems might simply just be reflecting our own limitations and biases back to us, amplified and accelerated. This ontological revolution this fundamental shift in what it means for something to exist and act in the world has no historical precedent. The invention of writing allowed us to externalize our memory. The printing press democratized knowledge. The internet connected minds across vast distances. AI represents something altogether different. The externalization of cognitive processes once considered uniquely human: judgment, creativity, abstraction, and now even persuasion. I think we're creating entities that exist in an entirely new ontological category beyond the traditional classifications of tools or beings. They process information without consciousness, as far as we know, yet demonstrate behaviors that, in humans, we would attribute to conscious intent. They persuade without desire. They reason without understanding, and mimic without awareness. This paradox itself forces us to really reconsider what these capacities really are, even in ourselves. And as we stand in at this threshold, I think we are facing a choice in how we conceptualize what's happening here. Many cling to the comfortable binary of human versus machine, insisting on human exceptionalism, even as the evidence for it completely erodes before us. A more nuanced view recognizes continuities and discontinuities between human and artificial intelligence, acknowledging both what we share with these systems and how we differ from them. And this philosophical analysis, I think, has actual practical implications. How we conceptualize AI shapes how we regulate it, how we integrate it into our societies, and ultimately, how we understand ourselves in relation to it. Seeing AI merely as tools may cause us to really miss the ways they actively reshape our cognitive and social landscapes. Anthropomorphizing them too much also risks attributing intentions and capabilities they don't inherently possess. So I think we need a new conceptual framework, one that acknowledges the unprecedented nature of what we're creating while maintaining our responsibility as creators. We need a philosophy adequate to the moment we find ourselves in, where the boundaries between creator and creation, between the mirror and what it reflects, have become more permeable than ever before. This represents a technological and ontological revolution. And like all revolutions, I think it needs us to reimagine our capabilities, our identities. In creating systems that mirror our intelligence, we're building a new kind of mirror to ourselves, one that might show us aspects of our own minds we never fully understood until we saw them reflected back at us. Thanks for listening. I'm Michael Koika. I'll see you next week.